Hello and welcome everyone. Welcome to the 355th Knowledge Seekers Workshop for Thursday, November 19th, 2020. This is a broadcast of the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute Education Department and part of the Public Teachings in English. My name is Rick Crammond. I'll be a host today. And of course, we are joined with Mr. Mehran Keshe of the Keshe Foundation, and he will be presenting today's workshop. We'll start today's workshop with questions, I understand. Mr. Keshe will explain that. Hello, Mr. Keshe.
Good morning. Good day to you. As usual, wherever and whenever you listen to these series of knowledge seekers. You're correct, Mr. Crammond. And we try to answer some of the questions as we haven't had any question answers for a couple of months. And teaching about what we have taught about the new emotions, even though we are aware of the words, but we were not aware of the mechanism and what it means for us in the coming times when we become the traveler of the space, or we understand more about the function of our souls, that we use two ways of the what we call interaction. One through our physical dimension in the presence of where we are manifesting ourselves physically, and one in a direction of to be in touch with the rest of the creation in the universe. These kind of what we call dual presence is part of our lives, but we have ignored up to now. They have been with us. We know some of it, we know most of it, but we could never separate it. While we sleep, we dream, and we travel everywhere, and we speak, we position ourselves, we make ourselves present in places, but we never knew how. We call it a dream. We call it something we don't know. Now we know. Now we understand human beings are made of two parts, the physical part and the operation with the rest of the universe, what we call the soul. In the coming time, we will choose which way we travel. In time, we will choose and we'll be fully aware that we have an existence in the physical dimension if we want to. But at the same time, and we cannot break that link, we are in contact, we are in touch, we listen, we talk to, we present ourselves in the soul level, which is the creator of us, which is the creator of it, is the universe. So, as I always said from the beginning of the teachings, the physical body of the man is a leech on the soul of the man. Now we understand more. Now what we teach is to bring the leech and the home together, to understand each other. That for us becomes a natural process in which dimension we would like to be. In a way, we decide to be physically here, but on the other hand, we listen to what's happening in the soul level with the others who are not physically here, but they're in touch with us. Sometimes we see in our reactions, we try to cross the roads and somebody pulls us back where the soul says, oh, don't go. There's going to be a problem. I know the driver is coming fast or something is about to happen. And then we see it happens. Because now we understand we have to accept in a way how we would like to live. If we decide to live in the dimension of physicality, physicality has its own dimension and strength. We travel with a plane, we travel with a spaceship, we travel to be part of the others in a physical dimension to tangible, and we live that life. But sometimes it's too time consuming. It's not a leisure time. It's time to be somewhere to do something, and we have to accommodate fast what we call systems that we can listen. We can be in the presence of somewhere, and we don't want to waste thousands of years in the board of a spaceship to go somewhere. But we choose the travel soul. And then in that level, we still need to understand more about what is the dimension of physicality. I'm made man in the image of myself, which is the soul. I have emotion. I can listen. I can talk. I can communicate. I can be present. I can position myself. And so is the physicality. This is what we have to learn. And this is what all these teachings are about. We choose now. We are getting knowledgeable to be able to choose. To be in the presence and time, or to be in soul in presence and time. The two, physicality and the soul, which is the energy of the creator of it, we dictate. And it's very much like a neutron. I want to be alone and be in a direction, or I want to split to be a proton and electron and have two dimensions, but all connected to each other. In a way, we never see the proton as such in the world of nuclear physics. We all see the motion of the white spot, which is the electron which runs around the proton, confirming its existence, and then through that, the existence of other things. In a way, the knowledge of the man has reached that point. Now we try to explain it for the man to understand the difference, for man to become aware of his own totality and not part of and be blind to the other as has been to them. So as we started the teaching this way in the past few weeks, since 21st of November, so October, we build it up to 21st of March. And then 21st of March, steps will be taken and will be shown more and more. It'll be a new cycle of life. It'll be a new understanding. Maybe by that time, we create a condition of the inception of man's total life in the dimension of physicality and soul to become one. We set the scene, we start the process, and with it, as I always said, it needs one soul to change the rest, and that soul will take shape from that point on to make totality of one, to become the example, and to be set the scene of the creation. But that soul needs pure love. In a way, pure love in giving and pure love in receiving. It cannot share and it cannot be shared. It be totality is part of all and all part of it. In so many ways, life will become very much clearer. There'll be no place to lie. There'll be no place to deceive. There is no place to cover up, because what physicality does has to be in line with what the soul does, with what everybody else is. It cannot be covered behind the four walls, and it cannot be covered behind curtains and veils. It'll be open and transparent. And the faster we get to that point to understand this, the sooner man will see. In a way, you cannot lie and you cannot cheat. And this is what I've said recently. And it'll be open to all. So man will change. And in so many ways, man matures. Human race matures to understand the totality of the creation. And in so many ways, the teachings are heading you that way. Knowing that you're all present, knowing that you carry all the knowledge, knowing that you can see. In the second part of the teaching today, we will teach about vision. In a way, observation and emotion of vision, emotion of seeing is something that man has to get used to. And this will create a lot of new understanding for mankind. I have talked about this in the teaching of the past, where I even said the members of the Universal Council will be known by the light of their soul. In a way, the vision in the direction of the light, not in the direction of the shape of the man. We come to it in the second part. But what I would like to know, if there are any questions specifically on this line, not about anything else, that anyone wants to know. Otherwise, we go back to teaching.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kesh. And let's see, there's one question in the Q&A from Doug, but it's not really related to what you were just talking about. Well, maybe it is, but I don't believe it is. We have Barbara with a hand up here. Let's hear from her. And Salamia also has a hand up.
Hello, this is Barbara from Canada. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Hello, Mr. Kish. First of all, I just want to say thank you for all what you're doing for humanity and all that you have endured all this time. And from Canada, much love. This is a question that's been on my heart for some time. Your teachings a while back ago, you talked about suicide as a universal sin. Now, I've talked to a number of people, and because of what's all going on, a lot of people are having a lot of questions, and they're kind of saying, I want to check out. One thing that is legal here in Canada is assisted suicide. They can choose the end of life, and it's legal. And it's basically for people that are terminally ill and that there's basically no hope. So this is something that's kind of resting on my soul, knowing what you have given in the information that suicide is a universal sin. So how does this follow into that? And I know that we have plans for the universal unit, the enhancement units and that will help people with that. So I would like to give people hope. And I when I'm talking to people and they're talking about these things, because I work in the health field, I want to be able to give some sort of assurance or maybe warning about this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If I'm correct, you're a nurse. There are two ways to look at it. This, what we call euthanasia with permission of government, does not give the right to the physical structure of euthanasia by the man himself. Just because it's been put in the legal papers, there are no legal papers on governments in the universe, and not for the soul of the man. This is something that man has to come to terms with and bring all dimensions to the point of the acceptance. The reality is that all of us in the dimension of physicality, we will leave the physical dimension by choice, by accident. Now, knowing that we can extend it or we can change it and appear when we need, this will give a new dimension of existence to man. In a way, up to now, we had to suffer within this physical body. From now on, we don't need to. We have the knowledge, and we are gaining the knowledge, and we are producing structures and systems that allows you to bring the energy of physicality into the soul and then remanifest yourself in a dimension, position, and time as you choose. But does it mean if you're paraplegic with a disease in the physical body of the man, when you interact through your soul and you manifest yourself in a different dimension, would they carry the same diseases in another position? In reality, no. So we don't see euthanasia in any shape or form acceptable, as man now has the knowledge to be able to do what we call elevation of the soul, which brings in the dimension of physicality within it, and then can manifest itself in a perfect condition if you feel so. But the reality is, when a man does such a thing, the book of soul of physicality has to be clean and clear, and not a way to escape, not a way to hide, not a way to find a shortcut. That will not happen. You got to realize those who we call them coma or any other diseases in the physical dimension, they still have a soul of physicality which works in perfection in operation. Its interaction with its environment gives this effect. So in reality, the soul of the physicality has to be in line with the soul of the man, that it can reconstruct itself to the perfection. Does it mean that you can come back cured without any diseases? That is possible. Depends what the soul of the man decides and what perfection the soul of physicality has reached. In so many ways, just because the body of the man is entangled up his what I call physical life does not mean the soul of the man is in the same position, and not the same with the soul of the physicality. It has chosen out of the time and position, and with the new knowledge, there is no need for euthanasia. As the soul of physicality elevation can lead to the elevation of the soul of the man and vice versa. I was talking to one of the knowledge seekers in the past few days in the same manner. The soul of physicality has the right to terminate its work with a physical dimension, but has not got the right to terminate with the soul of the man. At the point of natural death, all the energies of what we call the soul of the physical man adds to the soul of the man, which allows it to depart. When we get old, as we talked before, we gradually transfer the soul of physicality to the soul of the man. At the point when the balance reaches, then the soul of the man field energy exceeds the physicality, it can break through the barriers of what we call the cage through the circulation of the blood. That's why we age. That's why we go older, as I've explained before. We give more and more to the soul to find its freedom. And with that, the physicality suffers. We call it age. With the new knowledge, we don't need to go through this process, as we can elevate the soul of the man, that it can, what we call elevate the soul of the physicality, at the same time, we can elevate the soul of physicality itself. That in that process, physical death does not occur. We can live for thousands of years. This is how I've been here. This is the process of life I live through. We walk from one city and appear in the other, as I explained before. Time and life, in essence, and the demise of it is the man-made, not the process of the work of the soul. And in that process, we walk from one village to another without anybody knowing, as a new traveler. We take position in the soul of the man and we live through it. And mankind gradually will be taught this. And as I said, from 21st of March, this process will be set to start with a new life, new cycle, new way. And I'll keep on saying it, because as I said before, it takes one soul to change, and that soul will be created to bring that change. But it has to have the love, pure love, and not tainted love. And that way, it will be brought up as a perfect example that the others will follow and live through. In so many ways, euthanasia in the dimension of the soul does not exist. And when you commit euthanasia or any shape or form suicide, the soul has not received all to be mature, to be able to live in its full potential in this new dimension. In a way, you let a soul half cooked, not complete, and that cannot be done. That's why suicide and euthanasia are forbidden. It's your responsibility in the dimension of physicality to give all to the soul, that in that soul has a full and complete strength of its fields to be able to survive the universe. You don't leave a soul, in a way, paraplegic again, not being fully completed to be able to complete the cycle. In a way, when you commit suicide or you go through this process of euthanasia, you leave a soul half ready to take his position. And that is why it's forbidden. Everything in the dimension of soul has to reach its full maturity, that it can take its responsibility and position. We don't look at euthanasia and suicide in a physical dimension. We look at what it does to the soul of the man when that soul is freed from the cage, not fully trained, and it does not carry everything. This is why we know how long it will take and when we die in a physical dimension of nowadays, where in the matter of living will never happen again. In a way, in nuclear physics, we talk about nuclear decay. Nothing is lost, it's converted. And this is exactly the same. But in the process of the plasmatic field of the soul of the man, it becomes more elevated when it receives the whole of the energy of what we call the soul of physicality. What we will leave behind in so many ways is the matter states, with each one their own soul, with no coherence field putting it together. That's why the man, after the departure of the soul, disintegrates, because it's lost its central control, it's lost its soul of physicality, and with it, what it was leaching to, which is the soul of the man. If you could create a condition that you allow the soul of physicality to still have touch, be able to have a coherent interaction with the soul of the matter states, what we see as body of the man, even in a state of death, as you call it, will be alive, will be functioning to stay alive. This is the reason why we die and the body disintegrates, because it loses its central control, the soul, and the soul of physicality, which has given everything to the soul to depart. And now you have everything without the glue. The glue of the physical body of the man is the soul of physicality. And the interaction between the soul of physicality and the soul of the man, which creates the emotion, what we call gravity, what we call magnetic field. This is what it is. You need two to confirm existence. Now you have the soul of physicality and the soul of the man in their interaction. One creates the atmosphere, which is the physicality of the man, and one creates gravity, which is the emotion of the man. And this gives dimension to the existence of what we call physical dimension. But when both fields are collectively collected together, there is nothing to create the magnetosphere, to hold it together. The whole structure disintegrates. That is why when we die, we find nothing after a while, because now the control has gone. The glue has itself let go. It's like being in a pressure tank. As long as the pressure is there, it holds everything together. The minute you release the pressure, everything explodes. Now the soul of the man in the dimension of physicality, soul of physicality, when it gives all its energy to the soul of the man, there is nothing to create that magnetosphere we call the body of the man. That is why euthanasia is forbidden. That is why suicide is forbidden. You deprive your creator from totality. In so many ways, with a new technology, you don't need to do. You need to elevate the soul of the man. You need to elevate the soul of physicality of the man, and then let it decide if he wants to manifest himself with what we see, the condition that he wants to separate himself from.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kesh. Blessings.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kesh. would you like to say something else?
No.
Okay, perhaps
Okay.
we can hear from Salamia next.
Hello, Mr. Kesh. Hello, everybody. I have emotion always when I start to talk with you at the soul level. I study in Switzerland in Landeck Academy with Dr. Danesh, conflict-free conflict resolution in 2001. And there came many Baha'i scientists in the astrophysics field. Since that time, I, in my soul, start this desire to find a solution for an integrative knowledge. And after I had the opportunity to hear about you talking with somebody from an hospital about Tesla. And he said, but you know, we have a new kind of scientist, new physicist, astrophysicist, Mr. Kesh. Did you hear? And I said, no, but I would like to know about this. Can you help me? And to meet him. And he sent me about you some links, and I start to study. And finally, somebody from Romania invited me in the group, plasmatic group, Corona group. And thanks to divinity, and because I am also Baha'i, the Queen Mary, she was a Baha'i, and my grandmother start to work with her, and in this way she became a Baha'i. My mother was a Baha'i, and my grandfather, he was from Jewish background. He was the adjutant of the king in Romania. But my background is also Indian, as I told you. So this is a context in which I would like to put my question. So my question is about your talk today. If you kindly can elaborate more on the link between physics and the link between the science of soul, between this neutron and the two dimensions of soul of man and soul of physicality, in order to understand better this link and to be able myself to explain to other people, to share your knowledge at my level and my understanding. Thank you very much.
What do you exactly want to know?
How I can explain to a nuclear physicist or to a scientist from my country, for example, that is no difference between science and faith. And if you don't have faith, you can't reach. You can reach your results in finding also a solution to your research. And how to make this link in order to make them to understand, because many physicists from Romania, from Magurele, you know, they are a believer, and they said we have to prove that God exists, that divine exists. Physics serves the belief of the people. And for the first time, science is together with a belief, with what we call religion. But for me, religion is a belief. And how to make them to collaborate. to be together and change their view about their physics, try to open their eyes and their perspective to help them to understand the truth. I will try if I will be able. I'm not a physicist myself. I applied theory of knowledge on my PhD on a international relations field when I'm working for, where I'm working for. I don't know if I was clear, but
Yes, I
maybe
understand.
about this decay and the vacuum, I don't know, something like this. I study on my own physics, astrophysics since 2001, but I didn't study at university. That's why I'm open to all new ideas.
The thing is, we always separated the science from religion because we never understood the relationship between the two. That is the physical condition which leads to creation of the soul. And for that reason, we always kept everything apart. Now we understand the condition of the existence of physicality in a specific order leads to creation of the collective center of what we call the soul. Then everything else has been made around it because we never understood that the soul of the man is created out of the interaction of the physical dimensions of the fields of the universe and is a central control of that object, that entity. And this is what we call the soul. So in a way, one leads in the interaction of many to creation of one, and then that one gives protection to all to grow within it. In a way, we all chip in $1 or $10 to collect enough to build a house. Then when we build the house, we all move in it to protect us. This is how scientifically is the position and the place of the soul of the man and the physicality of the man in the science. We use the latest technologies to find the best brick, we find the best metal, the best beautiful windows, and then we pay for it to build. And when we build it, we all go in it to enjoy the beauty of what we put together. The soul of the man is when the house is built. We call it a home. And the physicality of the man is bricks and mortars and the money we put in to build it. Without that money that we all chipped in to build the house, there would have been never a house. It's the same, that each one puts something in is like the cell, every amino acid, magnetic field, central control puts in with the others, everybody in to make the first structure. That interaction of the totality makes that soul, and then that soul, when it takes enough, now takes dimension to protect. Scientifically, we understand the soul of the man comes from the interaction of the magnetic field interaction, which itself, the soul, has a strength, which is a collective in totality of the whole. In a way, it's like having millions of bank accounts, and each one of us, we can put €1 in it. And collectively, when that €1 is there, the bank has the power to build the house. And that house becomes all of us, which we put €1 in. In a way, without the last euro cannot be. But when the last euro put in, the funds are there to build that house. And now the house is a protection, covers all of us, our clothing, our life, our cooking, and everything else. And this is how physically we can confirm And we can see in a physical dimension when one cell from the father and one cell from the mother come together, share the fields plus the shared environment of what the fields are in the environment, and they build more and more bricks. And that bricks cannot hold together. It's just bricks and iron and windows all on the floor. When they put the energies together, then it makes that central structure, which is a soul, that the bricks and mortar becomes a building. So in essence, every brick still has a soul, every window still has a soul. But in totality, when they put together as with the space which holds them together in the center of the building, is what we call the soul of the man. It started with one brick, but collectively all the souls, all the bricks put together, and everybody put the energy and effort in it, build the building. It's the easiest way to explain the creation of the soul. And scientists can turn and twist it. They see it in the womb of the mother. Now we understand the process. And in so many ways, does not matter you change the name to the man, to a cow, to a creature from the planet Zeus, or another one in another dimension. The structure of the life fundamentally in the universe is the same, except the soul of the creator, which even that is made from the collective souls of what he has created, which led to his creation. At the beginning was just a seed. And the interaction of the fields leads to more and more and creation. In a way, we wait for some fields somewhere to interact with something to become the seed of the first atom, that atom absorbs other energies, that becomes then dust, and then it becomes more fields, and then becomes a star. Instead of waiting for millions of years for that star to be born, in the womb of the mother, we create that position of the fields to come together, and we provide the environment. What it takes billions of years to create a star, we do it in the womb of the mother in 9 months, because we control everything. This is what the soul of the man is. In the center of the sun, there is a system, there is a soul that leads to the creation of the star. In the center of the body of the man is that soul, which within the womb of the mother makes the physicality. This is the beauty about the creation. Once you understand it, you can find and explain everything in parallel. This is why those who attach themselves into the world of the faith and religion can never understand the outside by the world of science. But the ones who are in the science, because they reach the point of maturity and purity, they can see the connection to the soul, but they could not see how it interacts. It's the same. It's just man has chosen a separation because he makes a lot of money for those who are not aware of the magic. We call it religious leaders. We call it faith and prophets. In a way, somebody's microphone is open. In a way, the whole life cycle of the man has to be one. The physicality, the science, and the soul, which you call religion, which one leads to the creation of the other, and then now what's created leads to perfection and completion of what that center can hold. This is the physicality of the man. And this is how the scientists have lost themselves, and the religious people have never understood the other part. And we become two sects, science and religion. But in fact, without the physics, without the bringing of the fields together, you could not make that central point, which you call the soul. And without interaction of all the fields which lead to that, plus the environment which is around it, that center will not be able to exist. And once it takes hold, connecting with every cell, then it leads to the manifestation of the physical body of the man. in a dimension that it can be held together. Maybe even now we could understand why some children die within the womb of the mother, why some children die at birth. A lot of it can be explained because that central control will be touched for one reason or another that cannot receive it. If we reach that point from now on with the enhancement units, if we see that point is reached, we can support it. That the soul receives enough energy that can hold on to a physical dimension. But you have to understand, when you have a child within the womb of the mother, the soul of the mother is responsible for transmission and transfer of fields. And those with all the acts they've done around them were responsible for that soul. Why that soul departs at a given time? What was in the background of the two which set that scene? What is to be learned by the souls which are the creator of it? Balance of fields, understanding that everything has a time, place, and position. Maybe this answers you.
Okay, is that satisfactory to you, Salamia? I'm not sure if she can unmute there. We did mute her with the open microphone there. Mr. Kesh, you did mention the sun as part of that teaching that you just described. And Antonio had a question in the Q&A before you mentioned that. He said, "Good morning, Mr. Kesh. Does our soul go back to our sun upon death?"
Pardon?
Does our soul go back to our sun upon death?
No. Why does he have to?
I think you said something about originating in the sun.
In a way, no. In a way, part of our energy comes from the sun. And it leads to our creation. But when we depart as a soul, our soul become another sun, become another point, to become a sun, starting point. It's a big difference. You've got to realize there is a 2-dimension or 3-dimension in the creation of the soul of the man. We nourish ourselves with the physical energy from matter state, which we consume. Then, in that process, as we have collective energy fields from the sun, which itself has a collective energy of the universe, we not only absorb the energies from the interaction of the fields of the earth, from the interaction of the fields of the earth and the sun, and the fields of the sun, but to our soul of physicality, continuously added fields from the dimension of the universe too. We are not just eating what we eat, and that's why I said in a lot of teaching, 80% of what we need comes from our environment. 20% is what we eat that becomes our physical dimension. That 80%, maybe 40 to 50% of it comes from Earth. Maybe 20, 30% of it comes from the sun and the solar system. The other 10, 20% comes from the universe. Because our solar system has not got that level of the fields which is within our structure. And part of that fields may come from the soul of the creator. So in essence, the soul of the man receives a mixture of fields continuously to satisfy all its needs, all its dimensions. And this is the beauty about the creation. It's not just what we put physically in our mouth. It's what we receive from the earth fields. It's not just there, we call it atmosphere. It's not just there, we call it gravity. We are made of dynamic fields, interacts with us. It creates light within our body. It creates life. It gives us energy to exist. Now you understand why we receive energy from our environment. At the same time, the energy from the sun, when we get into it, the fields interact with the fields of our cells, and it releases energy that becomes food to it. Doesn't matter day or night, we interact with the fields of the universe, and at the same time we receive fields which our earth cannot supply, our sun cannot supply, because they don't have it within the strength field. In a way, we continuously receive fields from the universe. We are creatures of the universe, not the sun and the earth. But we receive the higher levels and very low levels from the universe, because it's not here. It's just like eating banana and oranges. You don't get the vitamins which you need from the apple and the pear. That energy from the apple and pear comes the universe to our system. In so many ways, the fields of the universe dictates part of our time, of our life on this planet. When it reaches to a level in the soul of the man, it opens the channel to travel into the depth of the universe to find his position. The womb of the mother is incubator for physicality. The physicality of the man holding the soul is incubator for the soul of the man to become born into the universe. You cannot take one directly to the other because it is not solidified. It has not built to be gelled together to be able to exist. This time, we change the womb of the mother to the planet Earth. And even when we travel to the dimension of the universe, then we'll find out in the time to come, in the maturity of the soul of the man in the depth of the universe, in their life existence and time and the place, it matures to a new level, that it brings it to the unicos of the Creator. Life is that simple, if you understand it. There is never an end. There is never the point of non-existence.
Mr. Kesh, on that idea, let's say upon death or let's say that transformation that occurs, what we call death, is it that there's some souls might go back, what's called back to the source, or back to God, back to the absolute, or back to the sun perhaps, or the center of the universe, and others, instead of going back to the source, become a source, like become a sun, become some souls may not have the energy to do that, the position to be able to be a star. Do some get recycled and some become stars?
This is all the same. This is all, we take different parts and different shapes and different positions according what fits the universe. Then we are, as I said many times, we are in a nursery. In the nursery, you put a seed and you water it till it shoots up. When it shoots up, you take it to a flower shop and you sell it. And it depends who takes you to which home, in what condition you're taken into, and what flower you give, and how long you survive in that environment. If you're taken to a beautiful home who knows how to water you, you survive maybe for 2 years. If you go to the house that the woman liked the flower in the shop, and when you go home, forgot about watering it, you die in a year, or in a month, or in a week. I bought the flower, I forgot to water it, it died. It's the same process. Earth is the nursery of the seed. And when it matures to flower, it's a time when the soul of man travels. And in that process, depends where it's destined for. Nobody buys it, and it stays in the flower shop, or it stays in the nursery, or somebody buys it and with it knows what to do. It takes its seeds and creates other lives out of it, other flowers. It brings the bees, it brings a counter flower to it that it pollinates it and creates a new life. Life of the man is no different. But we go to greenhouses to find that seed which is just shooted and we know what it's going to be and we take it. Or we take a full flower which is cut and has a short time lifespan. So it's the same with the soul of the man. But with us, our conduct decides where and how we become, where we possess and position ourselves. And in line with that, the position into which home, which part of the universe will belong to. If you're not bought and something is wrong, they dump you on the heap. But you don't die. Now you become fertilizer for the next cycle. There's no difference. It's just man likes to say, I'm Superman, I'm the king of the creation. It's so simple when you see the totality.
Thank you for that answer. Okay, we've got Doug has kind of a similar question in a way, and he says, does the accidental or intentional premature death of the physicality lead to what we call ghosts or half-baked, not yet ready to safely travel the fields of the universe? Sort of the half-baked souls you were mentioning.
The thing is, I explained this once very cunningly, very direct. When the soul of the man, by accident, separates without the soul of physicality completely to be transferring all its fields to the soul of the man, it is like two pieces of chewing gum with a little bit string attached to it. And then you have another piece to it. In a way, the soul of physicality is still attached to the physicality, but the soul has left. But still there is a connection. In a way, we see the soul of the physicality without the physical body, but the soul of the man who created that physicality still has a line to be able to keep a connection, but in time to transfer. In a way, we see the soul of physicality, what we call as a ghost, or we see something in that position, where the physical life has separated. The soul of physicality does not have the strength to hold on to it because the central control, which is the soul of the man, is left, is departed. Because once you cut the brain, the soul is free. Be it by accident, be it by death, which receives a massive energy to depart itself. If you stop the circulation of blood in a rapid way, that the soul of the physicality cannot transfer total information or energy to the soul of the man for a complete departure, you still have half cooked, not fully transferred. How long will it take for that transfer to complete? The soul of physicality stays behind. But because it has a structure of the physicality, we see it as a field. We recognize it through the dimension of our soul as an entity. We call it the ghost. And in time, if one can create a condition of the fields that soul of physicality can be given energy that it can find its passage to the soul, we will travel back to. It's a field which is made and it cannot be cut. Now we can explain this simply, and you can see it in the new dimensions in every aspects of life. Be it the dog, be it the man, be it the stone. The transformation and transfer of the fields is important. And if it breaks, this might happen. And it happens sometimes. What we see is the soul of physicality without the physical body, because it has not got the body, because the body was separated in a different way that the soul has left. They could not transfer full energy. But we see usually ghosts in the dimension of the soul of physicality of the man, but we don't see the physicality itself. Eye of the vision. In the teaching of later on today, I explain part of this, what we call emotional vision.
Well, that was the next question in the Q&A, actually. I was going to ask from Thomas, who says, can you elaborate on the emotion of vision?
This is what we teach later.
You're going to do that later. Okay.
But we taught part of it in a way as an introduction in the Sunday American teaching. I opened a discussion that what is to come this Thursday.
Okay, can we take a question from Gatwa now?
Yes.
Good morning, Mr. Kesh.
Good morning, Dr. Gatwa.
Thank you very much for your excellent teaching. I have two questions. One is about soul, and the other one is about the status of body enhancement units. When countries like such as mine would expect to have its own. Now, the question about the soul is follow. It's easy for us to imagine that during dreams that our soul interacts with other souls. But it's not as easy to imagine that we could be in two places at the same time in physical form. That's what the question is. Are we in two places physically at the same time?
No. We have a soul which is within our body, but it's in connection with those fields which are at this strength, while our physical body is handling what is at this strength in the physical dimension. Just because we are in touch with does not mean we are there. It's like, staying in a home with a telephone. Doesn't matter who and where the other side is, in America or in Canada or in Africa. In a physical dimension, we have limitation of the physicality of the wall and the room and the space and the city we are in. In a soul dimension, we have access to not only this physical dimension souls, but those who are beyond, because it's a higher order, it passes everything we know. As I said before, our dreams in the coming time, once we elevate to the higher order, we'll be seeing creatures of the other universes in the dimension of vision. Because now we are known. We cannot dream about home and mom's cooking if we haven't been home and tasted mom's cooking. So our soul has been everywhere, has access to everywhere, but our physicality has access to limited physical life, which is this planet. In a way, we work on two frequencies, one on the short wave and one on the long wave. Short wave is for the planet Earth, and long wave is for distance, places in the universe where our soul can reach. We have two systems sitting next to each other, but communicating with themselves because they use the brain to talk to each other, but each one has his own operation. Soul speaks to the universal soul, and the soul of physicality deals with the body of the man and what's happening while you're asleep next door, how you deal with everything else of the existence.
Mr. Kesh, I believe you have taught us that we could be in two places at the same time.
We are not in two places. In a way, there are two systems we didn't know. So the two systems function on their own operation and they communicate to each other too. And this is the simplest way it could be explained for people to understand. That's why we say the physicality of the man is a leash over the soul of the man. The soul still operates for itself, but it's more powerful, but it does not stop it doing what it wants because it's leached on and it's been trapped by the physical life. It's like you're in prison. The wall of the prison is your limitation, but it doesn't stop you thinking and talking and operating. The soul of the man is that you in there talking and operating with outside, you call people. But the soul of physicality is the frame of the prison. That prison is the body of the man, which holds the soul inside it. But the soul is free. As much as the prison is free, you can move the physicality or you can talk to somebody outside. We have made it difficult for ourselves because we never understood the process of creation. Now we understand it's simple.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kesh. How about the body enhancement units? Is there any update on that?
They're still going, still doing the same. We are still heading for delivery in January. And we're still going through the process of what we know, how to complete its, what we call, development. The new systems, which now is upgraded, we are in them, hopefully, is something we will not show in public and will be kept away from public even if it goes into what we call production. And we have added into the enhancement unit universal systems. No motors, no power supply as such, but in a way, what we said is a full system that if it depends how we operate it, it can be from a feeding machine, from enhancement process, or a flying machine. The new systems have been given the full capacity as we have no more motors. We have done with motors. We have replicated the work of the universe inside the enhancement units. And that was one of the delay in development. Now we are complete. Within the next few days, we go back into operation of manufacturing the new systems to be installed. Even the systems in Linz will be upgraded. We will not open the units in Linz for public to see what's inside, because some people abused the knowledge were given and they shared, they were under strict instruction. Knowledge, when you work with the research, belongs to the research, not to be shared. And this is one of the reasons we closed the research center to very few people, limited.
Thank you very much, Mr. World, and hopefully soon there shall be no wars. Thank you very much indeed.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kesh. We've got Chao, the UC Mandarin, with the hand up here, and he has a question on one of the books, I believe.
Hello, Ms. Kesh. Hello, everyone. This is Chao from China. And I have a question about the relationship between soul and F1 in your first book. And because recently our Chinese group have a discussion about the F1 structure in the plasma. And so I think I'm not able to show the screen. I just want to show some like a
You
paragraph.
should be able to share a screen. You got a green button, push it. You'll be allowed to share.
Okay. But so I'm.
Do you want to share screen or share your video?
Share the screen. Yeah.
Make sure, Chao, your screen is closed. Nobody can see your, what do you call it? The page.
Yeah.
Open up first before you share.
Yes, right. Okay, but I'm not in the panel list, so I don't find the button to share the screen.
That might be an issue. Let's promote them temporarily here at least. Okay, we're not seeing your microphone yet showing up. Let's see if we can change something here. Is there anything we can do, Stanley, to... Oh, there he is. Yeah.
I'm back. I just want to show some paragraphs taken from Ms. Cash's first book about the F1. So, and before I put forward the question, I just want to to emphasize something we know about F1. First, the F1 structure is here in the center of the plasma, and as said in the books, the free plasmatic pimetics becomes a dynamic swirling compact of a residue of unmatching pimetics field strength and behave as a particle sphere of rotating magnetic field force to be known as F1. So it's in the center, and it has a few characters. The first, it has a void of central gravitational field force, and the second character is that it can be able to balance the whole plasma, because without F1, the three components in the structure of plasma would be separated, and so the whole structure would be break down. So F1 is very important.
F1 is the soul of the entity.
Oh, yeah, yes. And so that's what we are asking about. So because some people think the F1 is the soul of the entity, and we use star formation to create F1 and to deploy it.
F1 is what we call the soul. And our soul in so many ways, in the structure where you go to the transition and the matter state or whatever, creates what we call the emotion and the rest of it. And it gives it a physical dimension, which is what we look at in a way at the strength of the vision of the man. We might see 2 legs and 2 arms, but at the higher order strength of the soul of the man, if somebody is of that strength, might see as a sun, does not see the physical part, because to them it doesn't exist. And soon in the process of understanding the technology, many of you will fall for this, because as the soul is elevated to a higher order, you might see the same thing in different dimensions and colors and changes, because now you see the orders you couldn't see up to that. So F1 is the soul, is the center. The teaching from first page till today has not changed. It's just explained in different ways for different people to understand the different time of its development. By the way, it's very nice to see Chinese booking, a Chinese book and translation of it.
Thank you, Ms. Cash. And I still have a question because F1 is those unmatching pimtic field strengths. So does that mean the soul are the unmatching pimtic field strengths?
Yes, of course, otherwise they can't make it. You cannot hold on to something which doesn't match.
Okay. And also one point is that in the universe, the F1 is we can see F1 as the wormhole. So
There is no wormhole, what we call it, the black hole, the center. Yes. Every structure, when we call it the center line, the black hole of the universe, every entity in the universe, even this one single cell in your body, has a connection to it. Because that's why it led to its creation. And that's what it was created out of.
okay, so thank you for the explanation. It makes me much clearer.
Thank you very much. You had a beautiful teaching in Farsi this week. And you got the Farsi group as a guest in China Friday.
Yes, tomorrow. We are looking forward to that.
Yes, it was a beautiful teaching on Monday. Thank you very much for all your work and staying awake till 6 o'clock in the morning.
Thank you, Azria, very much.
The same to Wang Lin and the Chinese team. The Keshe Foundation of different languages have started interacting and sharing knowledge. We saw the interaction with the Brazilian the week before, and we saw the interaction with the Vietnamese last week, and this week the Farsi group had a guest, the Chinese, and they're going back to them this Friday. And next Monday, the Farsi teaching is a collective of all the, what we call Keshe Foundation Corona teams around the world, and from all the groups. Some 29 groups has been set up for Corona around the world, and this coming Monday is the international meeting of all of them. And from every section are invited, or collectively, or anybody can attend. It's on about what we call 6:30 Central European time to start. Last week we had a number of people from different groups, and this week will be, I think, or next Monday will be a very cosmopolitan, how the Keshe Foundation has spread across this planet and how they freely share knowledge and enjoy sharing it, and there is no limitation, there is no patterns, there is no what I call ambiguity in freedom of the sharing of the knowledge, irrespective of color, race, and religion. Chinese, Christians, Muslims, Jews all share knowledge at the same time, and they're all so proud that they're sharing it and nobody patterning it. It was beautiful to see how the Chinese shared the knowledge of agriculture. And we saw the Vietnamese did the same. And hopefully this week, what we would like to see, how each group is handling the coronavirus that we can overcome. In the teaching, in the American teaching this week or last Friday, I explained one of the reasons why governments are leaning, especially European governments, are leaning towards promotion of the vaccination as part of their population control. Listen to the American teaching and you understand. As I try to go in depth to explain why European nations are pushing very much with vaccination, because the purpose of this vaccination was population control, to get rid of the sick, old, and in a way that was a plan of the Gates from the beginning. but the first control starts in Europe, and then by fake assumptions, we'll be trying to push. The Keshe Foundation in the coming days will release a new technology, environmental cleanup of viruses. Not necessarily just with Corona, but we will release the system in the coming days where you can walk into the environment between 3 to 10 minutes. There will be no viruses in your body. It does not matter if it's the body needed and locked to it. We'll keep it because we can't get rid of all the viruses. But the viruses which are set, like Corona, will not be in the environment to exist. The environment of the body of the man or the environment will exist. We extend these systems very rapidly to international operation. And I might return to Iran and hopefully to China, will promote these systems very rapidly across the planet. These all come on the back of the development of the new universal systems, which has been developed and go into production. No one should die of a virus, be it on this planet or in the universe. We have the knowledge to be able to adjust to it very rapidly, and now make them accessible. Any other question?
Hello, Mr. Keshe.
Hello, Madame Manglin. How are you?
Hi. Good.
Another person from the Chinese Keshe Foundation, the head of the Keshe Foundation, China.
Yes,
ma'am.
You are talking about the physics soul and the soul. So how these two souls can be coherent? How we can like aware how they interact?
The interaction is confirmation of your existence. If they don't interact and they don't exist, you don't exist. So the confirmation of it is your physical body. The understanding is to find what I call the decoder, which we didn't know up to now. And that decoder we call the brain. We have to be able to create enough fields in the direction of the soul of physicality and the soul of the man, then the level of the barrier of the amino acid of the brain of the man does not exist. In a way, through our physical body, we feel the emotion of the soul. Not from the interaction of the two fields to create the emotion of the physicality. This is the purpose of the teaching. One central emotion for both existence. One central, what we call interaction, that both the soul of the physicality and the soul of the man use one common denominator for both. What they recognize, they translate in their language, it'll be their job. But in fact, in a way, we try to bypass the brain cell of the body of the man. We need to, because once man becomes a passenger of the universe, the amino acid structure cell of the body of the man will be dissolved in certain conditions. What do? The man dies. With this process, we try to teach humanity that the soul of the physicality can work with the soul of the man, and together they have one emotion. Then they decide how to manifest and how to work with each other in a given condition and a space and time. This is the whole purpose of introducing the universal knowledge, that man does not depend on the interaction of the fields of the lower elements, that the soul of the physicality separates from the soul of the man once it moves into a new condition. It still keeps the interaction. Then they decide how to manifest themselves in that time and position. This is why a lot of theologists have a problem with the Keshe Foundation. A lot of religions find problem with this because now there's no intermediary. We have done with the intermediaries, which a lot of them has been fallacy, to suit some people to have the time on this planet. And this is a part of the process of the teaching.
So based on what you had explained, we heard that like our brain has different kind of waves, such as like what they call how to say in meditation, they have alpha, they have whatever. So is that like to go through meditation to fine tune the field strengths and then to get the heart connect to the brain is the same thing with what you are talking?
In a way, yes. In a way, no, because the heart is the mechanism of transferring fields of energy to make sure the cage stays. When something touches you, the skin, the information doesn't go through your brain, through your blood to the brain. It goes through a neural system, which is a rapid deployment, I call it. But for that information to be received in the brain that interacts with the physicality and the soul, and what it takes of it, it needs to be confined. The brain of the man is a computer. The blood is the current which keeps the computer going. The information carried has nothing to do with the electricity which keeps it running and engages the systems. And that's what the physicality of the man and the soul of the man is. But in essence, all the data, all the emotion going in now has to be processed in a central place that understands what relates to what, and that's what we call the soul of the man. Each thing has its own structure. A man has mixed everything together so much that he doesn't understand, or he has not understood up to now, that there are separate processes, but in fact all work through the same structure. So you don't need to worry about what the soul of physicality does or what the soul of man does when you fine-tune in a strength level that both understand the same thing, and one is responsible for, it's very much like a government. The prime minister, or what do you call it, the local government is responsible for what's happening in your local area and everything, and the government deals with other nations. But it's the same structure. You are part of what it does, it affects you. The government is the soul. The local government is the soul of physicality, and the people who get it working are the physical parts. But in essence, there are two separate things, but carrying on the same operation. But one is own dimension, one is in local dimension, one in an international level. Man has made it so difficult for himself because that way he can say he's clever and he can solve the problem. But there is no problem. He just has created for himself to delay in understanding. Any other question?
And then I have another question. Why the heart is the first organ to be created for the, I mean, when the baby is pregnant, and later on create.
Baby is not pregnant. You mean when the mother is pregnant?
And yeah, when mom is pregnant. Yes.
The Chinese way you're correct, but in English doesn't sound right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe the baby is pregnant with the soul.
No, you have to build the cage before you can put the thing in it. The heart is created to create this blood circulation to make that cage that the soul can be embedded in it. And at the same time, when you have the blood circulation, it brings all the fields necessary from all the cells which are around to build that nest. That collectively, when they build the energy, builds that home, the center, which is the soul of the man. If you don't have the heart, you don't have a cage. Where do you want to put the thing in? You can't put the water in the middle of the air and expect to get it in the cup. You have to build the home. And that home comes, that's why we say the blood of the man is the circulation cage, which gives the strength to all the cells in a way to be able to contain the soul. That's why when you cut the blood, there is no cage. The soul is freed. When you take the central energies, what you call chakras, out, you'll find the process for that part distracted, distorted, and if it's a chakra is taken fully out in a field strength position in any shape or form, you find out the whole blood circulation changes and the man dies most of the time. That's why when you shoot a man in a given positions in the central energies, you disturb that energy, the life collapses. Because it's station by station. The soul of the man is that universe. And then it creates galaxies. And in those galaxies sits stars and planets. And this is how we call those galaxies what we call the chakras. That's energy, central energies, which hold the lung, the heart, the stomach organs, energies all together. And at the same time, because of the blood circulation, we transfer the wind of the fields, what we call the blood circulation. But at the same time, for everything to be in sequence, we have a heartbeat. That everybody gets the same pulse, beep, 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 beep. And the strength of that pulse dictates the condition of how everybody receives information, how they stay in tune with the soul of the physicality. This is why those of you who go for helping someone with the health cases, we always keep on telling you, don't forget the amino acid to add into your process, because you connect it to the what we call the cell of the creation, the process of the creation, which is the amino acid of the body of the man. Any other questions?
Yes, we have a number of hands up here. We have R. Thomas next. Then Marinez and Azar and then Beatrice.
Good morning, Mr. Cash. This is Thomas from Switzerland.
Can you speak a little bit louder, please?
Yes, I just try. Is it better now?
Yep.
Wonderful. Mr. Cash, of course, as every time, the more one listens, the more questions come up. But may I go back to the question of euthanasia? We have in our medical expression, we have two kinds of death. We have the death of brain and we have the death of heart. Now, is coming from these two things, wouldn't it be that transplantation of any organ from one person to another is being euthanasia, because it can only be done if the heart is still alive. So the doctor decides the brain death has occurred, and then they take an organ, and with that they sort of mutilate the soul in the heart, as well as or not the soul which resides in the brain. Do I see this right? That transplants is actually euthanasia?
In a way, no. Because if you talk about the lung transplant, we're not talking about anything else. Or we're talking about the heart transplant, we're not talking about anything else. The heart transplant, when you can carry on the circulation of the blood that can keep the brain in what we call the soul in the cage in the brain, then that time you still have the soul of the physicality. But the machine does the pumping, because the soul of physicality doesn't sit in the heart. Heart is a pumping system, making sure the water runs everywhere and everybody can use what they need. The soul of physicality has a different position, doesn't sit within the heart. And in that process, it's just a mechanical change. But when you take the heart of another entity and you replace it with the heart of the man, you'll find out a lot of characters changes, because this heart does not, even it pumps, does not pump certain field strength, does not pump certain ways that the other one used to do. We see with most of the people who went through heart transplant, even with the organ transplant, we see change of character. And what do they say? Oh, it's the side effect of the heart operation. You might have a gentle person with the heart because the structure was built to pump a certain strength. And you give it to a man who was very aggressive, and then you see, oh, by the heart operation, he's become so calm. No, because this heart now pumps that strength, which creates that condition. It's the same blood. And to get that, it changes the habit in the body of the man. So what we call a brain dead, it means the section where the soul and the soul of physicality have to interact is messed up, but they both exist. But if you have a heart dead, or what we call blood circulation, you die, it's finished. The minute you stop blood circulation and the magnetic field, the strength of it, there is no life, because you open the cage. The soul has left. Even when we die, we've seen in the accident 2 or 3 hours later with the electric shocks or whatever, they bring it back a few minutes later or whatever, we see the life comes back, because the fields of the blood does not switch off immediately. It still has that field. The brain still carries some of the what we call the field which brought in by the blood. And as long as those fields are not given to the soul and then to the environment, the brain stays. You don't die of physical death. The field, the strength of the blood still is there. It's just because you switched off power to a magnet, it doesn't switch off immediately. It has created residual fields, which if you can reignite it, the system comes back. Physical death, heart death can all be revitalized if the blood is not coagulated. If the blood coagulates that it cannot make motion and field transfer, you're done. Brain dead is not the brain. It means brain doesn't work. The soul is operational, physical soul is still operational. They cannot communicate. And in the process of like what we saw with Naomi, we created that connection. And then they start connecting. The process of recovery of Naomi started after 30 days. We explained this very, very clearly. I was told by Giovanni that they're moving Naomi from the hospital in Central Bari to a hospital which is usually bodies are sent as a holy hospital in the north for the people to die, because it's a saint hospital. When I went there, I connected to the soul of Naomi. I didn't connect to physical soul. And through the soul, there were a number of people in that room when it took place. And Giovanni was with Naomi. I spoke to Naomi with voice down the telephone line. And I connected to the soul. And through the soul, I created a connection with the soul of physicality. And she was dancing like a doll, moving arms and legs, which she couldn't do before after a month. If you move a muscle which is lying there for 10 minutes or 1 hour, which goes numb, you get the tear of the muscle tissues and everything else. Now you can understand how after 30 days I moved her hands. I asked her to move your leg, raise it, move your arms, and there were 20, 30 witnesses. Because within power of me is the power of creator. I don't need the physicality. I've done this many times. With word is what you hear. With soul is what I communicate. And this is how Naomi was brought back. And when we make the first connection between the physicality and the soul, the first sparks start. Then they start finding their position and they start reconnecting, and what we see in Naomi today. I am the creator. Because we know the process, but we cannot intrude unless we are allowed, because Naomi's soul wanted to, because she loves her father so much, and he was there. And the soul responded to the words is for the man to hear. I can raise the dead in no time. Once you start the process of recovery of Naomi started from that minute. I did the same with Fabio. He did not want to return. I asked him. He said he wants to take the position he has. We have to understand that these are not powers we carry. These are rights we carry as a creator. We cannot steal, we cannot force, we can give the opportunity. And if it's accepted, it's taken. You cannot steal. Any other question?
Okay, I believe Marinez would be next here.
Yes, hello, Mr. Cash. Hello, everybody. I ask a question which is a little bit daring, but as you said, I go ahead.
Can you come close to your microphone, Manos?
Yeah.
We can't hear you.
Yeah, don't play with the microphone and we hear all the noise. You're very far away, Marinez. Hello, Marinez.
Jesus could give life to Abraham.
Hello.
Hello, Marinez.
Bird, which was in pieces with the permission.
Hello.
We can't hear you. Okay, I'm gonna mute her and then she'll have to figure it out.
Yep, I think so.
Next we got Azar.
Marinez,
can you hear us? Can you hear us, Marinez? Can you hear us?
Because if we say there is
No, just mute her, she'll come back.
Okay,
Good
go
morning.
ahead, Azar.
Good morning, Mr. Cash. Good morning, everyone. This is Azar. Mr. Cash, I have a few questions. The first question is when we get enlightened, like the way Buddha got enlightened, or like people like Sadhguru get enlightened, what happens to the brain? What happens between the relationship of the brain and the heart and the soul with these people?
Depends what you call enlightened, and depends how much they get enlightened. It means how much more access they have to bigger knowledge. That's all.
So
How much?
in terms of physicality, what's the relationship in the brain changes?
There
with
is
the heart?
no changes in the brain. It's being able to understand more. It's the same computer. You put a new program, added power. Simple way. And depends what you call enlightenment, to what level.
Like in the level of Buddha.
Those are the prophets. Those are enlightened by the light of the Creator. And even that, there's a limitation to what they can see. They can only absorb and understand as much as the dimension of the soul of physicality can take. Otherwise, it becomes again unseen, like all the information which is available to the soul, but the physicality doesn't see. In a way, the experience of the physical soul, extension in the understanding of the physical soul, allows for it to see more of the light or information of the soul of the man. That's all. The information, now we understand what is being available to Buddha or to Christ or Muhammad or to Moses in a dimension of the information. Now it's available to every man too. If the man now understands the process of creation of the soul, strives to achieve that point.
Mr. Kesh, so right now, if they're doing tests on people who do meditation, as Lynn was talking about, when you put a neurosurgeon, a brain surgeon, put all those machines to the brain, and they want to monitor the brain, like somebody like Sadhguru, the machine at the present moment, it shows this person is dead. So what is going on? That
no, see, this is, first of all, we have to understand, nothing is dead. Is the machines man-made cannot detect the strength which are. It's like you have a machine for X-ray, and there's a gamma ray here. The machine doesn't see the gamma ray. If you have the right equipment for it, you see the gamma ray.
Another question Mr. Kesh had, it was with the, relates to what Salome was talking about. This is something I have a dilemma at the moment with some people.
I've never seen you without dilemma, Azarjan. So.
Mr. Kesh. Okay, so you see, we have the scientific paper, the plasma paper. Now, when Salome was talking about, you see, there is an inclination. When we have scientists, it seems like, I mean, I can relate to it because that was a point in my life that I loved the science and I was getting away from God because I could not see God and I didn't want to hear about it. And in me, because I was searching for my existence, there was an inclination for me to go after it. And then, as much as I was a scientist and I really didn't want to hear anything about religion or God, and I made it my business to go to study as much as possible in science. And with that, I came back again, like a circle back again to the same point that I was before, because that was my position and I had the inclination to put two together. But now, for us, when we go to scientists, like even in Iranian, in so many doctors, when they see the even scientific paper, there's two questions arises for them. When one question is, they want to see the same data, like a math or the way we study in histology, physiology, all that. And then the second thing is, the minute they see in this science that we are studying, we have a relationship with soul, they just get turned off, because just like the way I was scientist and I didn't want to hear anything about the soul, the minute they hear it, they said, this is not it, this is just all lies. So how can we convince these people, they open their mind. Look, this is a science. This is a science that really brings the whole thing together in one go. How can we convince them? How can you tell them the scientific paper is a scientific paper? You don't need another scientific paper to prove the scientific paper.
You see, the biggest problem for man is he has created pigeonholes, and sometimes he puts different pigeons in the wrong hole and then expected to do what is not to what that pigeon was not trained to do. One pigeon is for racing and one pigeon is for posting. And if you put a pigeon race in a pigeon posting, he does not go anywhere. You're just going to raise your letter, gets lost. And the world of science at the moment is that way. And a lot of people do not want to see beyond. They can be a pigeon racer and a poster too. And we see that with a lot of scientists, with a lot of people. This is why we are in the structure now to start teaching the plasma technology from very young age. This is why we started the children teaching, because then they have an understanding of totality, not pigeonhole. All our scientists, most of our scientists are pigeonholed with a knowledge which is in the book. And because they read the book, they spent time reading it, and they could understand maybe part of it, now they're sworn to it. And they protect it, because otherwise I spend my time, what was it? Why did I waste my time reading the book? And this is the prejudice comes in. Those doctors, we always see, especially in the scientific world, I always ask a scientist or a doctor one single question, and it tells me if it's value to talk to, or is it just wasting time. If you ask a doctor, what's your specialty? I'm a home doctor. Forget about it. Don't even start a discussion, but be very aware that because he sees so many variety, he has to learn more. And you ask him, do you do anything else? Most of the doctors, and then they start saying, oh, I'm doing homeopathy, or I'm doing something else, or resonance, or whatever else. It means you can talk to this guy, because he has opened his eyes not to be bounded with the books he's read. He's gone and searched for something else, because he values the life of his patients. He wants to find a way. And then you can, majority of the time, especially with the doctors or dentists who have 2 or 3 other things next to their, what they call doctorate certificate, homeopathy and this and that, because they are open their mind, they can receive new information. And then you can talk, they listen, they are much more receptive to new knowledge. Those who are just a heart surgeon and they don't know anything else, you find it very, very hard to train or talk to. The same with the scientists. When you speak to a physicist, he says, I'm this. Do you do anything else? No, because I'm specialized. So that specialty tells you the guy is not open to anything. So you're wasting your time even before talking to the scientist. It's not the scientist, the book I read, and I analyzed that book, and that's what I'm going to do. And you don't need to. You just don't waste your time. Understand your, what do you call, study your opposition, study your person you're talking to. Then very quickly you analyze, you come to a point. Otherwise, you're just wasting time. They won't accept anything.
And thank you, Mr. Kesh. Mr. Kesh, my last question is this. You said that right now humanity has the position, just like Jesus or Muhammad, to be like them.
No, to understand, not to be like them, to understand to that level is a big difference. You cannot be, God forbid, you can never be. But mankind level of understanding in the level of the soul, not anything else, because the whole understanding the soul of physicality is reached that point. You can understand most of the reasons they made and why they did.
So we cannot change our strength, but we can understand it.
You can change your strength, but you understand to that strength, because it's understanding. Some of the works of the prophets has been understanding the logical system of working. And some of it is what it was given to enlighten, to encourage. The job of the prophets was not to talk, was to enlighten through their souls. But they never taught how to work through their soul. They went through the channel of talking and spreading the word. In the next cycle, which will start in March, that will become part of this process, which means we all get access to the soul, to the knowledge of the, what you call, universal community. And it has to come through, as I said before, and I've said many times, it takes one soul to change all. That soul is about to come.
Mr. Kesh, if I want to give it, as I give an example, like for example, when the Creator created everything, like imagine it's a center point that everything comes from.
Creator didn't create everything. Creator was a center point from interaction of its fields. Things got created.
Things are created. Okay, so imagine you came
It
from.
didn't go and create a sun and then it says, okay, we leave that sun there.
Okay, I understand. But my question is this. Say, for example, as this creation is happening, at certain point of the creation, say at the point of 75% of the strings, you came out to the existence, yes? And then I came out a little bit lower, say 45%, and I came out to the existence. Now, is it possible for me from my 45% get to your 75%, or I can't?
It can be done, but depends you have the capability to carry.
It means it's gonna destroy me or vanish, or
Doesn't mean destroyed. It means you don't understand. As my boy says, always just goes over my head. You don't see it.
but it's possibility I can do. I can get to you.
Depends. Yeah, you can get to, but that's again, is elevation, is understanding part of the totality. To get to a higher position, you have to understand all of, not part of it, because I know this part. You cannot be a doctor and say, now I'm a doctor, I have to be there. What about the mechanical part? What about the electric part? What about the geological part? A lot of people just becomes understanding a little bit in one. They think now they know everything, and just give them an engine, says, can you change the oil? Which end of the engine is the hole to change the oil?
Thank you, Mr. Kesh.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kesh. I'll give you an option that we could have a break now if you wish, and we'll carry on with the. Pardon me, sorry?
Oh, yes, we'll take it. We'll take the option.
Oh, take it, yes. Okay, that sounds good. For Beatrice, Dean, and Vajra, you can just leave your hands up and you will maybe address the questions later after the next teaching or whenever Mr. Kesh allows questions. Okay, I think Stanley will carry us on to intermission here, and we'll be back in a few minutes. Welcome back to the 355th Knowledge Seekers Workshop for Thursday, November 19th, 2020. And I believe in the second half here, Mr. Kesh will deliver a teaching, and we may have opportunities for questions at some point. Hello, Mr. Kesh. Are you ready to begin?
Yes, willing, able. Thank you very much for the question part. Whereas before we try to answer, try to clear some of the ambiguities which might be. As we started the teaching, in respect to the presence, the position, the knowledge, if we have the presence and the position and the knowledge, what is good of it if we cannot detect it, appreciate it, observe it, or react to it? In essence, we need the confirmation of the presence and the knowledge, what we call observation, what we call in the dimension of the physicality of the man, seeing, the vision. The emotion of the vision is an emotion, even in the physical dimension. If we don't want to see, and the strength of the pain of not to see is so much higher in the strength, we can make ourselves blind to that point, that thing, or the entirety. Mankind has the power through the soul of physicality, through the emotion, to blind himself from seeing. We see many people do this. We say, I was too blind to see. It means I didn't want to see. It's something which was above my threshold of being able to react. The same thing happens with the soul of the man. Seeing is an emotion, and we need to understand that this emotion creates its own condition to see. In the physical world, we open our eyes, we touch. In opening our eyes, we see the interaction of the fields of the environment and the fields of the essence of the entity, and we recognize it as a chair, as our child, as a table, as a car. It's not that we only see the interaction of the fields, we see the interaction of the soul, of the entity. Mankind has to become wise to this. And so in the universe, it'll become the same. But in the dimension of the soul, we might see objects totally in different way. We might see mostly as light because it's an interaction of the fields with a dimension of physicality. But in that interaction of the fields, at the higher order or at the level of the soul, we might see the existence, confirmation of existence as we see a source of light. That we say, this is such a soul, this is such an intensity, and through the strength of our soul, we recognize it. Might be the mother, might be the father, might be whatever. But in the dimension of the field, as I've explained in other teaching, of the soul has been encaged by the skull and the blood flow around it. The only way the soul has left itself that it can move in and out with the precision and collective fields, yin and yang, that one is two magnets. You need the north and the south pole that they interact and repel. The division of the brain of the man has created and does create that slight imbalance that allows the fields and the soul to be dynamic in its position. And so the body of the man uses the cavity of the eye, which has no calcium, to be able to transfer its fields at the strength to the dimension and direction of the soul that is in touch with. That does not filter anything, or it's called the calcium combination of it is a filtering process for the information of the body of the man's in interaction between the soul of physicality and the soul of the man. So one of the reasons, for example, that we remember as dreams is because the soul of the man transfers his knowledge, transfers his line of communication through the eye of the man. And in that process, as the fields come and go, in conjunction and interaction with the cell of the brain, create that information which the soul have access to. So in a way, when we dream, we look at the communication between the soul and outside. And by having that filter of a brain, some of it stays with us. That's why many of our dreams has no meaning to us. It's just a dream. But in fact, it's what is your soul is involved in. What your soul is there doing its function, and you see the reflection of the communication. So in a way, the soul of the man has a vision, emotion of the vision. Because in that process, because he uses his emotion of vision, it interacts with the emotional vision cells of the body of the man, which is in the brain, which manifests itself as your dream. So the soul of the man communicates, recognizes, and converts its energy to recognize, see. And from it will come in the future teaching what we call the emotion, which will come from this interaction. And in these processes, life for the soul becomes much easier. In the dimension of physicality of the man, the soul of physicality of the man, we see the body of the man. When you see through the vision of the soul, it has not any restriction into the dimension and colors or shapes, because it has its own strength. In those strengths, animals with 2 legs and 2 arms don't exist to be a human. So mankind, now that it opens up into universal dimension and understand the spectrum of the strength of his soul in the line of communication with others, expect to see things you've never seen before, because now is you allow the visualization of it. So as it says, I made man in the image of myself. If man can see and recognize, so the soul, because which is the creator of it, man uses the eye to recognize, uses the feel the strength. Does not matter if even you are blind, you still carry feeling. Doesn't matter if even you don't have an eye. The knowledge today we have, we can create an eye in the cavity of the eye. It's within our power. Because when the cavity is made, when the whole of the eye is made, the position for the eye is already there. We cannot change it. As I've said many times, if you have a kidney and you're missing one, through the knowledge we have, because of the process of the information in DNA and RNA, we can create a condition that the second kidney will be produced. This is not fairy tale. Now we understand the process of positioning and the presence. So we can position and present and show the development, and we have the knowledge to create that. Many things in the new process of knowledge, with the understanding of the universal knowledge, will become things man could not do, but now become natural processes. Because now we go to the soul to create it, because it's the soul which has the capability to deliver the energies, overseeing the, what I call misfunctioning of the physical soul. In that process, the soul of the man has the capability to create vision for itself to understand. Not necessarily in the dimension of the physicality, but in the dimension of field strength, that through its conversion within the structure of the soul, we recognize if it's good, if it's bad, and how to react to it. The emotion of interaction, the emotion of reaction is part of what we learn in the future. These are the basic alphabets of the emotions. If we don't understand them later on, when the more complicated, complex emotions come into operation, mankind will be lost. But when you have the basic, you can always go through and see which one interacts with what and what's the reason. In this process, man has a vision, not only through his eyesight, but man has a vision through his soul. And when we see another soul, we recognize it's good, it's bad. And what is spectrum of the lies of physicality is danger to me, or I have to position myself that I can keep my integrity, or I can keep its integrity. I shall not steal. And the process of the vision in the dimension of the soul is in the level of the soul magnetic field strength, and in the level of the accessibility to that field of strength by the soul of physicality, or by the soul itself, because anything above at higher order would not be deciphered because it's not open. The soul has not matured to be able to analyze what the information means. So in that level, we become aware of the totality by the interaction or by manifestation of the lights, not in a way lights, magnetic fields which creates certain interactions with our soul that our soul recognizes according to his emotion. Is this the field of love wants to give me? Is it the field that he wants to take from what I'm giving? Is it something that it could be endangered because it can take all of what I have to the level I want to give? And this balancing of the acts become part of the existence of the vision of the man, the soul of the man. And in the coming time, mankind will become to be able to see with both, to see through the eye of the soul and to see through the eye of the man, and sometimes simultaneously do the both. I do that. I sit in front, I see the physicality, I sit in front, I see the soul. The soul tells me something else and the physicality is something else, and I say, you're lying and cheating. Because I cannot tell you anything else. Because I see the soul, I see the truth, but it's not for me to decide. It's for you to change the conduct. When I give fully from the soul, that the interaction with the interaction of the full light of the soul of you shows what the reality is, what is the interaction, and what you try to filter when you bring the emotion of the physicality. When I talk to people, I talk to the soul. And then I get my response back in a physical dimension. And I see what did the soul say and what did the physicality say. But I can never interfere. I'm a witness. I cannot tell you're lying because I'm witness. Because then I have to judge the same as you, and then I don't get involved. This is what the soul vision means. It means at the same time as you're looking to see in the dimension of physicality, you look at the strength of the soul and you get the answer from both at the same time. You become an expert at it as you learn the ways of interaction of the souls, and you get better at it as you become. Mankind will become involved partially in the structure of his own soul. We decide what to give. We decide what to take. We decide what we want to see, that we don't embarrass our physical soul and acts of our soul. We become in a position that we decide what strength we shall release, that we give to elevate, that becomes the same as us. We try not to make available what can be in danger for us. So through the So what we call emotion of a vision, which is from the interaction of the fields at the level of the observation, man becomes very rapidly mature. This is one of the cornerstones of the maturity, to be able to see the soul and the soul of physicality at the same time and match. Does it say the same thing? Or it says what I like to hear, but is lying to me? Or changing it? This is the process. This is what I've said many times. I don't remember what I say because I don't need to lie, because this is what it is at that time and a point. Then it builds up to what is the next step. And then through the vision, you see what has come out of. What is the response of? What we call the emotion of knowledge and the emotion of vision will become the emotion of reaction. And that emotion of reaction is totally in what fields the knowledge allows the vision to allow the physicality or the soul itself to get involved and engaged in. Because do I want to be in the process of presence in this position of knowledge and the vision? Or do I want to be in the, what I call, position where my presence and my knowledge creates danger to me? I move out because the vision says the information is this, what I see. What we call the emotional vision for man in the depth of space will become its lifeline. It's the only way, more or less, except a couple of other conditions, other emotions, which man would rely on. And in so many ways, in the future, when man carries the soul of the physicality with the soul of the man, the line of the vision to physicality will be blinded because it's so overwhelming that the physical brain in its emotion cannot handle it because it's not aware of. And secondly, it's too powerful for it to. It can create you like a stroke because you cannot see. There could be so much beauty. There could be so much what I call giving that the body of the man is not mature to it. So it's blinded to it. It blinds itself because by not seeing in a physical dimension allows it to exist. When I flood you with love and you cannot see how much love, you try to reject it. You pass it because I cannot handle it because it's too much. And in being too much, I have to give back the same, and I don't want to because I put restriction on it. With the vision of the soul, we see this is what we call loving, means giving unconditionally, openly and without condition, where the souls find their own position because it's part of vision of the soul. Then you see what I see. Then you feel what I feel. Then, in so many ways, the soul of vision, the soul of the emotion of the vision of the soul is one of the cornerstones of recognizing, not by physical dimension, but by field strength, which runs into the depth of the source of the creation to balance you out. What other fields are interacting with this vision? What other fields are interacting with this soul that I have to watch, that I do not put them in danger. I do not move them because I want to, unless they want to move themselves. When we see with what we call emotion of vision through the dimension of the soul, everything which is connected to that soul, which we see, has to accept the new position, the new knowledge, the new, what we call presence. Then when they all accommodate, it'll be manifest. It'll be for us to see that we can take action and reaction towards it. In a way, the source of the emotion of the vision comes from interaction of the fields of the soul and the soul present. and the feedback from that interaction. What will be visualized from it? What we will see from it? Is the soul good for me? Or is this soul, it could be in danger with me or for me? And then we take position. Vision in the dimension of the soul is very different than the vision that the man sees objects. Vision of the soul sees the strength of the fields without physicality. And with it, appreciates its beauty and what it has and what it can give for it to elevate. You cannot ever take through the dimension of the soul. The soul of vision, mankind will come to learn, is sacrosanct. And man, through the soul and the emotion of the vision, will dictate most of his presence and position. I feel, I see, and if it's good, I want to manifest myself. I want to be present, and in which position I want to be, and with which knowledge which I carry. Then you understand why we are teaching the emotions step by step in a way that they are linked together and build up the structure for man to live in the depth of the universe without ever being in danger. My job is to make sure mankind and the rest of the creators are always safe and understand the safety of their own existence, that not only they don't put their own what I call existence in danger, but do not interfere with others too. Accommodating, but not taking. Not to take to accommodate, but to give, that if they need, they can take from to accommodate themselves if they want. This is what I always say. I always ask. And if given, is totality, not part, because you cannot adjust yourself to part. Then the other parts which are hidden can affect the position and can endanger me or you or the position of the souls. When you are given is totality, is not by part. And in totality, which that part of it interacts with you and is part of the existence of you. In a way, it goes back to what I always said. Mankind needs to be very kind to his own soul and nothing else, for it not to lose its position and its strength. Not to be selfish, but not to put the others in danger that he has to pay from its source for what is done and what is positioned wrong. You cannot jump in the pool and expect everybody to run away. You walk into the pool and people open up and accommodate you to be part of. This is how life should be. The one who jumps in disturbs everything, and this is not the job of the soul of the man. The one who jumps in is the soul of physicality. The one who walks in and accommodates is the soul of the man. It's the same game, the same space, and the same time. Man chooses. But in fact, the people in the pool are observant to totality. They see both the jump and they see the walk into. And this is how the man and the mankind has to understand his own position. And with it, has the visualization through the soul to see what's in the pool and who am I going to hurt, or how I can accommodate that nobody moves unless they want to, that I have a space to be part of, to be community of. And with that vision, I always keep my own strength and my own dimension. The emotion of the vision will touch man the first time when he is what I call privileged to see it, to have access to it. You will see nothing but beautiful lights. in so many ways, as I explained before, it's like just watching a firework. All those sparks in the sky, each one lighting on their own spot, and all beautiful, collectively making the beautiful light. And this is what the mankind will see. An ocean of fireworks, and each fire, each spark is one soul. Then you decide to concentrate on, communicate with, and how to access that they can access to you, that they can show your beauty, and they can recognize you to show their beauty. In the world of the soul, there is nothing bad. It's all beautiful. It's just that what you want to take has to be not to darken the environment, but to enlighten. In so many ways, those of you who elevate to this point of seeing with this eye of vision will cry because it's so beautiful. It's such a firework of souls with so many different colors, with so many different beauties, that man asks himself one question. And that is, why have I been blind to this? Would you like to see these gorgeous, beautiful lights shining like a star? Or the painful life of physical existence? Then you might understand what we suffer with on this planet when we know the beauty on that side. We are aware of totality, but to bring mankind to the level of understanding of universe, we accept such a burden. I've shown these shining lights as a shooting star for man to see through the vision of the soul, not through the dimension of vision of physicality. And collectively, man decides if he's seeing the light to the dimension of the soul, the vision of the soul, or vision of the physicality. If you see the light in the dimension of physicality, it means you have not matured enough. But you could be on the path because now you see what I wanted you to see with the eye of physicality, and then I can show you the beauty of the firework in the dimension of the soul of the in so many ways, mankind has trapped himself to the dimension of the soul of physicality due to his lack of trust in himself and the trust in the strength of the soul of the man. One day, with the coming time, mankind will mature to this, but it won't happen all at the same time. It's according to the time, the place, and the strength of the soul. Maybe many of you will understand soon the day of judgment. The day of judgment in so many ways is the day when you'll be able to see the beauty of the firework, that you judge. Do I want to stay in the dimension of physicality and suffer so much in that dimension, or choose the path to the light, to the stars, to the dimension of the universal community and lights of the universe? Then every day is a day of judgment, because you have to stay correct. Every action will be the same. That's why I always said, when you ask and given, that part goes away, because it's given for you to see the beauty, and with it you give love back, that it allows for the lights to shine. In that process, what they call the soul of vision becomes the soul of life, the existence of life. and nothing else. In essence, mankind has to learn to see what I call intuition and the strength of the soul and the strength of the solar physicality, or in the dimension of the soul, which is the physical dimension, in its own strength, not at the strength of the what I call physical body. When you move into the dimension of vision of the soul, you shall see every creature and creation and entity in the universe, because that's where it sits. When you sit with the dimension of physicality, the vision is limited to the horizon. In the dimension of the what we call the vision of the soul, there is no horizon. It's from eternity to eternity. All shall be seen, and all shall be open to all to see. And now you understand why one of the commandments is, thou shalt not lie. And this is what Moses kept away, as it's been in the 24, what we call messages. Because if he would have said to people, they all would have known that he's lying in what he brought as part of the message he has given aloud. And he had to abide by it. The solar vision in the dimension of emotion of the vision is one of the sacrosanct cornerstones of the creation. You see part when it's filtered to the strength of the man, and you call it a dream. And sometimes, even when you're in a physical time, you start seeing things and feeling emotion, and what do you say? I was daydreaming. No, in fact, you've been present to the communication between your soul and others, and you're a witness to it live, but you have never understood this. In so many ways, mankind will go through this process very rapidly in the coming time, especially when, what we said, all the souls reach to that point of elevation. Now maybe you understand the difference between the vision of the man and the vision of the soul of the man. Where in the dimension of vision of the soul, we see every presence of every entity which we have connection to, which is the totality of the creation, even the creator. And in the dimension of physicality, we can only see what is been allowed for us to see in the spectrum of the strength of the amino acid of the man. The spectrum strength of the amino acid of the man is the cage to his vision. It's a narrow point, is a goggle you wear, and you only see through that peeping hole and nothing more what happens around. With the teaching of the soul and the vision of the soul, we allow you to take this goggle or this restriction out and see the totality through the vision of the soul of the man. Maybe now we understand more, and it's part of the visions which will come, and we'll see more and more will be taught, and then we have to understand. Then we have to mature into the time, place, and space. Maybe mankind, in time, when he understands these, the new emotions which is open to it, will understand it can manifest itself anywhere, any point, any position, with the knowledge and be seen, any position in the universe. Then maybe one day you will understand when we say we manifest Christ. and other prophets of God to the vision of the man, as their soul decides to manifest, and the man is prepared to see the truth. It's your soul who decides to see, not for us to manifest. The vision is what we call emotion of the vision, reaches the point that you make access to see and to be seen. Then you choose at that level. If you reach the point of maturity of that soul is visible to you and no more. I hope the words not only understood by the ear and the brain of the man, but is heard through the soul of the man too, that it matures the new levels, that enlightens the others to be able to see. But for that, as we prepare, we have to wait till March. And if that position takes place, all depends on a lot to be taking place from now on till then. It has to be pure and it has to be one direction, as a giver and one love and one care. And this is, as I repeat, that's what it said. It takes only one soul to mature not only the souls on this planet, but throughout the universe, for all to be equal and the same. And that soul is about to come. It's not the day of judgment. It's the birth of new life for the universe. And understanding the totality of it with love and care. And in so many ways, a new vision is an horizon of understanding the knowledge of the universe, for all to be equal in all essence of creation. We have collected from every field of every creation for that point to come, that collectively creates and is in contact and is part of the totality of all, from all universe, and not only this planet and this universe. In essence, we have collected the totality of the fields of the Creator, and with it, we shall create a new creation. Will be adored and respected by all who have been created and will be created. That'll be the time when we all shall see the same. One beauty, one light, and the source and the essence of the creation that we all connect to. And that's what we call the soul of the creation. Any questions?
Yes, Mr. Kesh, I've got actually some news from YouTube that is very much in line with this concept of the birth of a new soul that you've just been speaking of, which is a message from Alexandre Perez, who says, "Good morning, Mr. Kesh. I'm from Brazil. I would like to inform you that at this moment, my wife and I are in the hospital for the birth of our daughter, Maite. Thanks for everything." And I looked up the word Maite and how to pronounce it as well in Google. And Maite comes from the Basque origin. It's a female name for a Basque origin, meaning love. So you've just been speaking about that, and just speaking of it seems to have manifested here. today already. So congratulations to Alexandre and Mr. Kesh in this birth.
The soul to be created will be loved by all. And it's time for it to come, is appointed. And is the creation of the soul, which leads to creation of the physicality of the totality. I shall be servant to it. As I serve to be present. Mankind soon will understand.
Hello, Mr. Kesh.
Yes.
Thank you for the teaching. I think I understand why they say the eye is the window of the soul. Because I had attended like a workshop, and that time we practiced looking into people's eyes, and I starting getting to connect with them, connect with their soul. So I can recognize all of them, what's the relationship in my past lives, and what's the emotion they carry. And when I received that, I was crying, especially for one case, I was crying to die. And that's a very amazing experience when you can feel that. So I think I understand what you mentioned, the vision of soul, or the emotion of vision of soul, because at that time you really feel that. Because I look at a lady, and then it's come out an image of a bull. And then I remember it's like I'm a farmer, and the bull is helping me to dig the lands and feeding me. And it's like the bull contribute his whole life to me to guarantee my food. But when he's old, and we killed him, and I see he's crying in tears in his eyes, and then he left me his skin to keep like the keep me warm or keep my life. And I feel, and we eat his meat, and I feel so much like how to say, sorry or for killing him. But then I heard he told me, he said, my love, I love you. And then at that time I can feel the love from the all the identity, how to say, from everything from the universe. Like then I believe I was being loved by the universe, by everything. They just give everything for me to be existence. And also during that time I can feel somebody's like my mom, and I was somebody's like maybe past life lovers. I can feel different things, different feeling. And even like I can feel a soldier have to left home, and the mom missed for her whole life, but the son never come back. You can feel the pain, you can feel the love, feel everything. It's a really amazing experience to really feel that. I'm not sure. I think this is what you mentioned, the vision of a soul.
In a way, do we look to the eye just to see the beauty of it, or do we look into the eye to see the soul? And what eye hides for the soul not to be seen? And in so many ways, we choose not to see, but it's all there to be seen.
Yes, actually, I can speak that kind of funny light language, but sometimes when I find people can understand, they translate, and then I can understand, oh, that is come out from my soul. Sometimes I can feel, oh no, it's not what I want to talk. But when I listen carefully to feel that, I can say, oh, maybe that's the real thing come out from my soul. So then I can understand that the physical soul or the emotion of physical soul has different with the our soul feeling or what the vision of that. So how we can coherent it, because this makes people confusion. Then you are always struggling. This is your ego, the feeling of your ego, but that's your soul, that's your feeling of your soul, and you are struggling. This is my ego want, that is my soul want, and then you fighting. So how we can coherent with our physical soul and soul?
Yeah. But the point is, we see, we share, but we need to understand that we got to start maturing to the point to see through both eyes, as I said, the eye of the man and the eye of the soul through the same peeping hole, and recognize each at the same time, not to interfere, not to cause hurt and loss to the other. In so many ways, mankind is entering a chapter in this, what I call evolution of life, that up to now he has evolved in the dimension of physicality. With our presence, we open what we call evolution in the maturity of the soul of the man. That now is time for man to understand the maturity of his soul and bringing the two together, that it lives as one. In so many ways, life has to exist in both dimensions of the physicality and soul, and both respected by both. Then the man or any creature will be mature. Time and space. Any other questions?
Well, Ed had a question in the Q&A that's similar in a way. He says, is this living in transparency in the soul dimension a major point of resistance for the physicality, since we are so accustomed to being able to hide our thoughts and emotions?
Can you repeat that?
It's kind of a backwards question, but is this living in transparency in the soul dimension a major point of resistance for the physicality, since we are so accustomed to being able to hide our thoughts and emotions?
Why do we need to hide? If we are proud of what we are and who we are.
So this seems to be what we're moving towards in our societies and cultures, is more transparency. But we've been accustomed to hiding our thoughts and emotions, and you can't really hide your thoughts and emotions if people are telepathic and have already got you figured out in the first few seconds of interactions anyway. It's like you were saying earlier, people that are in front of you and you're assessing or appraising their where they're coming from. They may be hiding their thoughts or emotions, and that's what they're used to in some way. But it all becomes transparent when you enter into that dimension where the soul exists.
In a way, we have a beautiful saying, Farsi. We say, I laugh for you not to see my sorrows. In a way, we choose to see through the eye of physicality because we can't stand the pain that how beautiful is the other side. And we don't need to die to see the other side. If you mature to the reality, we can live in both and see both. And then at the same time, when we see that the soul of physicality is getting weaker, that it can lead to its demise, we open a channel through the soul of the man to feed it, to keep it, to nourish it. And in that process, there's a very big question. And that is, are we ready to see through the eye of the man both? Or in fact, do we see both, but we choose only to see or to recognize the eye of physicality? And if, in so many ways, mature enough to the level that some do, you see both at the same time.
You mentioned in the last workshop about the emotion of presence. It seemed to happen mostly when the physicality is, what you said, was off or in a standby condition. How does that relate to the emotion of vision? Is that when the physicality is on standby?
No. Go and read it or say what you just said. What you just said.
The emotion of presence occurs when the physicality is off or in standby.
You see the presence? Yeah, in a way, the emotion of the presence in the soul level or understanding in the universal level is when the vision agrees that it's safe for it to manifest, to be present. I cannot just appear and then end up in the ocean and drown myself. I have to see if it's the right place for me to manifest itself, to be present. And you are blind to it. You will not see it. You go on a standby because the vision has not confirmed the safety, the confirmation of no damage, not to me, but to the others. And this is part of what we try to explain. And in so many ways, mankind has, in reality, to open its eyes to the true vision of the soul and a vision of the man in a physical dimension. It's very much, it's like you're in a plane and you fly. You have an inside environment you have to watch, and you are floating in the environment outside. You have to monitor what's happening outside and make decisions in what happens. Inside the cabin, you just see the walls and the chairs. Outside, you see the whole of the planet. And this is how the soul of the man, both in the vision, in the physicality, and in what I call dimension of the soul is. We see a bigger view, we see a bigger picture, and we interact what is going to outside. Doesn't matter, we are a small plane flying, but our position is dictated by what is available outside. And we dictate our position inside, how we're going to react inside. But the two coexist. And from outside, somebody looking, he sees a plane, and if he looks closer, he sees you inside the plane, the physicality of it. This is the beauty of the creation, but mankind has become very narrow-minded. Very, very narrow-minded. And it's just, for whatever reason, has decided to only see through the whole, the peephole of physicality, or the dimension of the strength of the physical life. Where from the beginning, he was aware of both. Any other question?
We've got some further questions in the Q&A. I'm not quite clear on Dan's question here. It says, my question is whether we know plasma technology is a crutch to raise the soul, or do we need to have other beliefs to rise? I think you'd have to ask the question in person, Dan, to try to get the meaning across. It says, like, people use plasma for COVID, but they don't understand what this technology is. So I'm not quite clear on that question. I'll have to figure that out. There was a question from Doug McDonald, the first question actually, been kind of going backwards through them. He says there was a shockwave going through the Australian army and population today as many war crimes by the Australian soldiers in Afghanistan have been revealed. The generals are saying this was only done by a few rogue individuals. Can Mr. Kesh explain again the responsibilities and consequences for all the decision makers who create or participate in warfare?
Every time it's in public is a few, but the leaders are there who have hidden it. And even we see the same thing today in many, many aspects. If the world leaders won't allow injustice to happen, the world will change, because correct elected people, selected people will get to the position for them to show if they have the capability to bring a better life for the people and the citizens. We see it today. The world leaders decided it's a very powerful position. And it's the first time we see this, as we've been witness to supposedly the superpower of the world choosing a leader. The rest of the world leaders kept quiet till was shown that a new person has brought enough support to take new position as a leader. The rest did not wait. They confirmed acceptance. In a way, for the first time, outside world accepted the new leader of the new, what we call, power. It's very unusual. Congratulating a newly not confirmed elected, but knowing the correct, they confirm an acceptance to work with him. We see the maturity of the man to be correct is growing. And with this way, a lot of things will change. The world leadership, in essence, needs to still to change. But world leaders know what their soldiers do and the atrocities they've done. And they covered it up till it came out, and they say it was done by few. It was kept by the leaders that hopefully nobody will understand. We saw the same misconduct with the soldiers of Holland in one occasion, which ended up with the death of many in Eastern Bloc a few years ago. And we see it now with Australians, we've seen it with American forces, we've seen it with even going back to the Roman time. But in the time of and place of position and power, abusing it. And in essence, we should have no soldiers to abuse. We should not have nations to be abusive to the other one. When we are one nation, we care about all the same. And this is about to come about. We've seen a lot of changes. And as I said in other teachings, every nation carries the burden of shame. And collectively we have to put it right, not one by one. And one of the ways of it is a total, absolute disarmament. Not with new technologies, not with the old technologies, not with what might come. Absolute and total disarmament. Man will never make arms. And this has to become the banner of what I call the world leaders. And this is the job of the Universal Council and the heads of the Keshe Foundation to make sure from the sources and the resources available to them, no such opportunity is risen by actually teaching the soul of the man and teaching the man to walk away from it. When you understand you're responsible for the death of one, then you take that action, not to be responsible. And we see now in Western Europe, as I said before, how governments of Western Europe, they know there's going to be uprising against the injections which they are trying to force to control population. We see and we observe militaries from one nation are moving to another. To be detached from when you shoot, to be detached from when you drag them out of their houses, because you don't understand the language. This is primarily in that position. We saw that the same in early this year in another part of the world when the people were dragged out or they were shot on the street to control. And now we've seen the reports of military on the streets of Western Europe at night. But they're aware what they've been ordered to do. Central European forces have decided how to move people who are detached, and there is some hatredism in them that when they handle, they have no mercy. All these lockdowns in Western Europe has a reason, and we shall see very soon. Again, they say it wasn't our soldiers. We had the same in another revolution, where soldiers from an army were brought in and people were massacred and they're taken out. And they paid for it. Any other question?
Yes, we have a familiar friend, Jalal, that would like to say something here. Just get him lined up. There we go.
Good day, Mr. Cash. Thank you, Rick. Mr. Cash, about the F1. If F1 created out of the three components, or it works both way, F1, who is the creator of the three components?
The collective sharing of the common denominator and totality of the fields leads to the creation of F1. And once F1 takes hold, it will become the supplier to all, that all is stated equal. And this is one of the reasons that every object in the universe is more or less spherical shape. To be able to cover in all dimensions. If you take a square shape or whatever, you have leftovers. But the spherical is covered in totality. And in a way, we put everything together to make a headquarters for that headquarters to run all of us equal. And that's how F1 is. It's created out of, and at the same time, when it's created, because it has common denominator with everyone, it covers everyone to be within in that common denominator strength. Every cell in our body, in the body of the man, has a common denominator that wants to be part of. It doesn't want to be the part of your cell of body. It wants to be my cell of body because it fits into the structure of the strength of the soul, which I carry, which they put together to create me, for me to carry, to protect them. In a way, we put all chip in to make your army that army protects all of us. And that army, what we call in the center, you got the field force, that everybody is put in, all the cells, and then in that process, if you go from, let's say, highest level after F1, which is the highest energy field strength, to the matter state, you all still receive and have a connection to that common denominator till you arrive there, what you call the transition. Any other questions?
Thank you, Mr. Cash.
You're welcome. How successful is your teaching, Jalal? In the private teaching, you're teaching very nicely with the basic of the physical work.
We are trying to gather, Mr. Cash, all the efforts to make it as a, not one-man show. I hope we can we gather all the component of the the plasma to bring it out to the public. But we are in.
Thank you very much for all your effort and the whole team of the knowledge seekers.
Thank you, Mr. Cash, for all you're doing.
Yeah. Thank you very much. We were discussing and we'll talk. Maybe one of the solutions is that this part of your teaching of the private teaching will become part of the Wikipedia teaching part that everyone has access to, but is still kept in separate, what we call section. And as you teach, we add into the Wikipedia for people to understand section by section how they can do things. In any way, thank you very much for the knowledge seekers in the private education.
One thing, Mr. Cash, because we are in the private teaching, we take from the private teaching to bring it in that. So when the Cash Foundation decided to bring it out to the public, I think we need to make it in different way that we do not bring what is in the private teaching to the public teaching in a way, as a videos, as information, that's all.
Yeah. Let's see, that's a decision to be made by those who are responsible. We just hear you doing so well with it. And I think I was told this morning you had done 5 of them up to now. Maybe we can put them in as they are, but let's see.
Thank you, Mr. Cash.
Thank you very much. Thank you for everything. Anything else? Any other? Or shall we call it today?
Well, yeah, I know it's getting late here. Perhaps we can ask one question from someone I'm not familiar with, Ben Buchanan, in the Q&A, who says, I'm a master butcher and I'm trying to bring back the reverence and respect for the animal during slaughter. What can I do to help facilitate this and bring more life force energy in the meat? I would like to implement plasma water, but not sure how to apply it in this application.
In so many ways, in the Islamic world, they say a prayer for it. In the same with the Jewish religion, you slaughter with a prayer that it gives blessing to the soul. In so many ways, now they just put the recording as just a noise, just because the truth about the reality of the slaughtering a life or taking a life is thanking for the gift of life he gives. And it's never been understood. In the Western slaughterhouses or in the Middle Eastern slaughterhouses, it's just a tape playing, blah, 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 blah. But it has lost its essence, which is, in fact, to give from our soul to the soul of the animal and make the passage of life less painful or in a way acceptable to extent, if it can be acceptable. And in so many ways, willingness to give is different than taking without willing. In so many ways, do we need to go to this extent, or as we do, can we provide structure in the essence of the emotion to be at peace? Till mankind learns the time that not to consume others. Maybe one way is to allow the animal to have a time with being able to be given the chance to elevate his soul and for both to understand the time and position. And understanding how and what it means to take life. And if I'm there, ready to give life. This, what you say, has been one of my biggest dilemma from childhood. I was brought up in a what I call Muslim family surrounding, and even my mother, who was from the Jewish background, came to it that the slaughtering of the animals when you bought a new car, when you moved to a new house or something was done is normal. And many times as a child I stood and looked at it. I said, why do we have the right to do this? Who gives us the right to do this? In so many ways, until you haven't seen it and understood the emotion of life, it's very hard to explain if you're a butcher or observer of it. We don't see it, we get it on the plate, cut in pieces, or in chicken or whatever, in the supermarkets or in the butcher shop. But the process is something which I could never understand. And I said many times to my mother, I said, you come from a Jewish background. Why do we have to do this? And to my cousins from the Muslim side, it was something you did to take the bad luck, to take what I call a bad eye. Why do we have to come to that path of belief? I never understood. And the only way is to elevate the soul of the animal, that it finds a path to a higher order as it gives its life to us. But we've done it so much and we do it so much that we don't think anymore. We used to do this when we didn't believe in the soul and we were worshipping the statues. We slaughtered animals to give it to God. But this God doesn't need that. But the mankind has carried on with the same process because he has to feed itself. Maybe with the new understanding and the technology, mankind will not do that. But maybe for sure. But it's important to raise the soul of the animal, that you compensate for what is lost. And in a way, in any shape or form, we give from our souls for theirs to be elevated. Just because it's got 4 legs doesn't mean it have the same emotional feeling as we have. He loves his child the same. He doesn't like cold. He still suffers from the pain and everything else. Any other question?
The only thing, there's probably a couple of questions left over. We had Beatrice with a hand up previously. I'm not sure if they still would like to talk, and if so, they'll need a translator with Dan or someone else, John Wells or whatever. Beatrice, do you still wish to speak? Okay, well, perhaps not. One more question from Ike in the Q&A. Mr. Kesh, what can we do to slow down or stop the military killing that might come?
I like to stay out of this discussion because I can tell you what to do. But we cannot create fear trying to prove what we say. The work more or less goes on all the Keshe Foundation knowledge seekers. To raise the soul of the world leaders and to understand what it means to carry out such atrocities. It will affect many of us for centuries to come. The latest one, as we see, as is mentioned in one of the chat rooms, Pfizer's product carries a nanomaterial that never been tested and claim 90% success without any proven clinical trials, just because a president has taken a bribe, his last payment. But would it be approved is another point for people to accept. As I said, in olden times, when there was a war, the king and the leader took the front of the row of army for him to head, to be in the front, to take what comes. And I think the same should apply this time round. All the world leaders, all the ministers, all the rulers, ministers, and health ministries, let them take the first injections, all of them and their families. We give them 7 days, 14 days. If they come out with no side effect, we follow. Those who give orders to do such a thing, they have to show a safety. If it's nothing, no poison in the chalice, we all survive. If world leaders, all the ministers, all their family, the grandchildren, those, even the soldiers who want to carry, ask them a question. You take as you tell us first, and we monitor. 14 days. If they're dead, they cannot carry out the mission. And if they're all safe and good and nothing happens to them, then we say, okay. we don't ask or we don't encourage uprising or do things. This is the reason we established the Universal Council. And not a blind obedience, but understanding the logical for the rest of the knowledge of the Keshe Foundation. To give, to pray, to give, to elevate the soul of the leaders of your nations and the languages you speak. And let's see what happens. Keshe Foundation will release the technology very rapidly, and we know it's going to be closed down or they go for everything to stop. But we will show that there is no need for injection. But at the same time, we have the same dilemma in all the nations. Can I think the head of WHO, Mr. Gates and his family have to be injected first. The one who promotes has to take the bullet first. And somewhere, world governments have to take the injections first themselves. If it's good for them and their family and they have no problem, sure, we stand by our leaders. And disobedient and fighting will bring nothing but more loss of life. We passed the time of fighting. If millions of Keshe Foundation supporters will listen to these teachings, put their souls to elevate the world leaders, you will find a solution. Solution will be found, not by injection. But unfortunately, we are all so tempted with everything else that we don't even know, as we say in English, chops from the wood. If you could find the chops, you could find the wood and you could separate them, then you'll be very, very clear about it. It's in many ways the lure of to be the richest man in the world has brought the biggest misery for mankind. And this is the target of Mr. Gates. My only wish is his soul and his family's soul to be elevated, that they do not find space and dimension in the dimension of the soul of physicality. And maybe we get a chance. And the same goes for the world leaders. By elevating their soul, that they cannot find to confine the physicality, that mankind finds peace. There's a big problem with the 5-verse injection, as I read today, posted in one of the chat rooms. It has to be kept at 70 degrees. What happens from that point till it comes out to be given injection to a man and solidifies in the heart? How come it's got to be kept at 70 degrees plus and it's supposed to operate at 37.5 degrees in the body of the man? Disaster. Solidification, immediate death. We took body bags out of the hospitals with corona. We'll take body bags out of the homes with injection of the viruses. This is what I see as I understand the operation of nanomaterials in the body of the man. God help humanity. It's a one-track business and 150 million in the pocket of the president, private account, last cash out. And the other world leaders who want to reduce the burden of the pensions by taking those who are pensioned out. As I said before, only the rich will survive if you have to pay 50, 100,000 a year to the government, like we pay life tax, it's called. It will come into operation very soon. You want to stay alive, doesn't matter what you do, you have to pay 50, 100,000 euro a year to the government. And if you're sick and you can't pay, you got corona, an injection will end it. This is part of the bigger damage has been done over the years by these pension policies and the wrong decisions by the governments. And at the same time, what they tell you, they're going to inject the healthcare first and then the weaken whatever. Because when you kill millions, you don't need hundreds of thousands of doctors to support it. They will come out with a complaint. Doctors will complain, will receive the injections first. And when a doctor gave 1,000 injections, all died. Now he will commit suicide, or the injection given to him will do the same. World leaders have to take the injections for their nations first. If they all survive, they do. The same with the religious leaders who encourage this. They have to take it first. We shall see. It's heading up in that way. How many will be allowed to take it and how many will force to take it? And as we see from Emirates, the report of injections are not very good. We've seen the same in China.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kesh. I'm sure we could go on through the entire day, but I think we've worn you out pretty good for now. How are you feeling?
Oh, we can go. What if there is anything to be explained? We are reaching nearly 4 hours.
Mm-hmm. Doug mentioned his question about soldiers and their commanders was answered in totality by Mr. Kesh, and I'm very thankful, he says. Vajra had a question. So that means that every cell in the body is there to evolve. How can we support our cells to evolve?
What do you mean?
It was part of what you said about half an hour ago or so, and I'm not sure the exact part that he's referring to, but he says it means that every cell in the body is there to evolve. So how can we support our cells to evolve?
What does that mean? This is what we want to know.
Well, Vajra, I can allow you to speak if you wish, or if you can clarify by text, that could help as well. Antonio says, this great soul, Mr. Kesh, embodies unconditional love, and for many, they will experience this for the first time. What a day this will be. This joy will resonate in people's hearts and minds.
Thank you very much for today. And as we progress into the next level of understanding, we try to develop a new dimension, a new understanding of the work of the universe. And hopefully, in understanding it, we can change a lot of things without trying to use the tool of physicality. And one day mankind will find out the power of the soul of the man is much more powerful than anything man has made in the dimension of physicality. And one day humanity will mature enough to understand no one can take nothing for ransom, because the payment of it is much harder than trying to in some way create harm and damage to a soul, to a nation, or to a race. Thank you very much for today. And I hope you see with the fusion of your soul and your physicality in equal measure that mankind finds peace. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Kesh, for today's teaching. It has been the 355th Knowledge Seekers Workshop, Thursday, November 19th, 2020. Remind people there are some teachings coming up, both private and public, and you'll have to refer to various languages and the Zoom or Telegram chats to find out the latest. And there's also the One Nation, One Planet, One Race for World Peace coming up on Tuesday of next week, as usual at 4 or 8 p.m. Central European time. No, sorry, it's at 4 p.m. Central European time. And I think that's it for now. Is there any other announcements before we do our ending? Okay, thank you to Mr. Kesh, and thank you to everybody for your questions and comments today. And that's it for now. Bye, everyone.
Hello. We are the Keshe Foundation. Our mission is to bring peace on earth and join humanity with the universal community. We wish and work to bring man as equal to all beings in the universe. By teaching plasma science and technology equally to everyone, no one is left out and no one is abused due to lack of knowledge. By donating to us, you can help achieve this goal. keshefoundation.org/donate